Happy Monday, ladies. I am coming at you again this Monday to talk a little bit about the single leg progressions that we've been doing in class. It's been a couple of weeks, maybe even a month and a half that we've been working on this single leg progression, and a couple of you have reached out that you feel like you're making gains in a lot of areas but not quite with the single leg work. So I want to talk about a couple of principles of movement that I want you guys to dial in when we're in the class setting. And then also I would like to go over a couple of other progressions that you can throw in as options when we're in the strength sets working on the single leg work. So let's get started with the principles of movement first. And if you've trained with me as a personal client, you already know all of this, but it's a good reminder, so hear me out. If you're doing a squat or a lunge or a deadlift, for example, I always cue from the ground up. That means that intention through your foot, through the floor, is where the movement really starts, the stability of the movement. So I want you to think about, as you're doing your squats and lunges this week, if you can take what we're going over today and dial it in to feel a little bit more connected to your muscles and a little bit more stable and strong in the movement pattern. So what you want to think about is that tripod of weight distribution between your big toe, your pinky toe, and your heel. You should always feel like you have an active arch. Even if you have the tendency to have a flattened arch, which I do for sure, or if you tend to pronate and let those ankles collapse in movement, I want you to try your hardest to connect to having some life to that arch. And how you're going to do that is by that grip from your feet on the ground and really thinking about that tripod of weight distribution. Coming up the chain from the feet, we're going to think about that external rotation of our thighs, okay? So when you corkscrew your heels into the ground, already really connected to the ground through that tripod of weight distribution, the lifted arch, you're gonna really feel grounded in your feet. So that's how you set up before you start doing your goblet squats or your deadlifts or whatever. The same rings true for the lunge, even though we're taking basically one leg out of it. So if you think about if you're in your proposal position, if you're in your kneeling position, that intention is through that front foot. So you need to think about, am I spreading my toes? Am I gripping the floor with my foot? Is my big toe and my pinky toe really grabbing the floor? Do I feel that arch that's lifted up? Can I get that external rotation of my thigh bone before I start to come down and frame the leg with my torso and push up from there? So you want to make sure that the movement starts, each rep starts by that grounding sensation. So just because your foot might not be on the floor, it might be on a chair, right? It might be on a box or your sofa, same thing. You want to think about how much control do you have from your foot up the chain into your thigh and butt, okay? Also, the positioning of the knee, staying over the middle of the foot is what I want you to think about too. If we start to let that heel lift up, that knee will start to jet forward, okay? So think about the way that you are grounding yourself before the movement begins. Okay, so let's talk about your single leg progressions. You already know the lunge get up off the floor. We've done that for many weeks. If that's where you are, I want you to focus more on that grounding and really not using that back leg as much as possible. Remember, we pull the heel up towards the butt, we lean over the leg and frame it, okay? So if you're ready to take it up a notch, but not quite ready to take it to the pistols yet, then you are gonna opt for the chair version this week, okay? So you're gonna start standing on your chair. So just make sure you have a very stable surface to stand on. You're gonna start standing on your chair, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna come over to the edge of your chair. Now, the same thing goes here. I'm really grounding myself through my foot on the chair. I'm really grabbing the chair with my feet, and I'm focusing on that external rotation of this leg, of my leg that's on the chair, okay? My abs are in tight. I'm focusing on leaning over this front leg, going down as far as I can. Now look, my heel of my front foot's on the ground. I'm in the bottom position of my pistol, but you might have a hard time getting up. So guess what? You just tuck that foot back under and you push yourself back up, okay? So just again, one foot's hanging off the chair. I've got myself rooted by my foot on the chair. My abs are tight. I'm gonna think about that nose to knees, ass to ankles. This leg stays straight. Come out in front of you. This is the bottom of your pistol. Swoop the leg back under and push yourself back up. Okay, so that's a way to take it to the next level without going into that candlestick pistol progression that we did the last 2 weeks. I know some of you said you were having a lot of fun with that, but it didn't feel like it was challenging enough in terms of workload. This might feel a little bit more challenging, and it might make you feel like you're moving along that pistol progression a little bit more. Now, if you're feeling really confident with that pistol progression, but you cannot quite seem to nail it, then what I want you to think about doing is elevating your heels. So what I'm gonna do is I have my coffee table book, my atlas, and I'm going to set it on the ground. And then just to give a little bit more lift, what I'm gonna do is just take my mat and fold it up and put it on top of it. So ankle mobility plays a huge role in a person's ability to be able to squat all the way down ass to grass, right? Because this is in essence the bottom of the pistol progression, except for one leg is out in front, right? If you have a hard time doing that with both feet on the ground, you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to do it with one foot out, right? So a way to get around that is to lift the heel a little bit, okay? So what I've got is my book. My mat's on top of my book, so I've maybe like 1.5 inch, 2 inch lift, and that's going to help me be able to get down into my pistol with a little less of that ankle mobility issue. So I have that based on what I have to throw into this video, but if you have weight plates or books you want to stack on top of each other, you can. Remember again though, find something that feels stable, practice it, and then decide to bring it into the class setting. The last thing I'll say is, remember in class, we're working really hard, our heart rate's up. It's super challenging to dial in technique when you feel really winded and gassed. So if you have the desire to really move the needle in terms of your strength, you might have to dial back the cardio a little bit, and that's okay. Especially reach out to tell me that that's what you're gonna do. I'd be happy to give you some alternatives to help move the needle towards the strength side of things if you want to cut back on cardio. So hope all that made sense. If it didn't, hit me up with an email, a text, whatever, and this week, Tuesday will be our double leg work and Thursday will be our single leg work. Okay, bye guys.